All right, so we are joined from the Mississippi Department of Transportation by my friend Chloe Loving, fixed assets manager accountant there with the Department of Transportation. We're in the finance career cluster. We thank you so much for joining us. This is our college career readiness class, and we're recording this for all of our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, on our YouTube channel. And I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. So before we get into what you do every day and how you got into finance and how finance is, a pretty secure field to get into, you went to Jim Hill High School where I started my career teaching,
I
and then you
did.
went to Hines Community College, and then went to Jackson State. So take us through that step. Take us through that process. Your decision to go to community college, and then the HBCU experience at Jackson State.
All right, so I started at Jim Hill. I was a part of the IB program, and I feel like that was a really good program as far as college readiness. They really prepared us as far as all the writing that has to be done in college, all the research that has to be done, and then test taking strategies. So I love Jim Hill, green and gold all the way. From there, I decided to go to Hines first because my mom was one of the deans there. So it
Ooh,
just kind of made sense for me to go. It was free. Um, and it really, it was a family environment at Hines, and it was a lot cheaper. So a lot of people, they want to go to a 4-year university like State or Ole Miss or something like that. But community colleges get overlooked in that aspect, and I try to tell young people, don't count out community colleges because you're learning the same thing. You're learning the same thing. And so at Hines, I was able to be a part of student government. I was a part of Phi Theta Kappa, which is an honor society. And through that, they award the most scholarships to your 4-year universities. So it's so important to get into Phi Theta Kappa. So from
absolutely.
there, yeah, from there, I transferred to Jackson State, and that was just a family tradition. I don't think I would have gone to any other HBCU. All my family has gone to Jackson State, and so there, I started off in accounting, and it just kind of fell in my lap. I knew I wanted to do something with numbers because I enjoy working with numbers, and so it was a great experience. I met a lot of great people there that I'm still friends with to this day, and it's nothing like the HBCU experience. So that's the gist of it.
Well, a couple things on that. With you mentioned community college. Right now, Hines and Holmes, which is where most of our students that go to community college go. We have some go to East Central and other places,
Yeah.
but they also have career certificate programs in financial services, accounting, technology, where you can
Yeah.
get into the finance field after 1 or 2 years out of high school.
Correct.
Because with technological advances with accounting software, they
Mm.
need people, especially these banks and some of in any type of large financial account, they need people that are trained to use the technology. So financial and accounting technology are growing, and they are
Yes.
looking for people right out of community college.
Correct. And especially those like bookkeeping certificates, like those hold a lot of value because accounting firms are looking for bookkeepers. They're looking for people who can process payroll. They're looking for people who can generate financial reports. And that's, the basis of accounting. So don't
Yeah,
count
and
that.
we've actually had some Velma Jackson alums that have gone to Jackson State and done their accounting program. Ole Miss also has a nationally known accounting program, so and also Mississippi College. So that's three off the top of my head that have unbelievable accounting programs. And it's like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, financial jobs, accounting jobs are not going anywhere. If you look at when companies downsize, financial people are the last people laid off because before you came on, I was telling the class every single place you do business has financial people. You're at the Mississippi Department of Transportation. You are not a logistics and transportation hauling person. You are
Mm.
not. You don't know anything about how to build a road or paint a road sign. But all of that has to have a budget. You have to. I know you deal with fixed assets, so all the technology and all the tools that the Department of Transportation uses You have to
Correct.
track how much they're spending, how much they have left, and what they can possibly buy next if they have the budget for it. So
Correct.
talk about that because you know that's not something you really think about because just because a company does sells a certain thing, that doesn't mean it doesn't have finance. And I know you also work at the state hospital. Hospitals have financial people. So talk about just the wide range of financial jobs because they literally touch every business.
Every part of it. So at MDOT, we have a few divisions that deal with the finance side of things. That's financial management division, and that's your core accounting, like your payroll, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. And then you have asset management, which is the division that I'm a part of. We are responsible for all of the acquisition of the fixed assets in our agency, and so that's all the tractors, excavators, all the heavy duty equipment you see on the side of the road, all the vehicles. We are responsible for that. I wish I knew the dollar amount off the top of my head, but it's millions of dollars in assets that we're responsible for. And also, like you said, the budgeting aspect of it. We're preparing for FY25, fiscal year 25, and our districts across the state are putting in the equipment that they need within their allotted budget. And so, if they have money left over from the previous fiscal year, it goes into our revolving fund and it can be used for other things that are needed. So, after asset management is the budget division, and that's more of like the political side, and they work with the legislature and things like that. So, you do have finance in every agency.
Yeah, and you are also a small business owner
Yes.
where you do individual tax things, individual accounting, and that's a growing and that's a huge growing thing because if you get that certification, we have another friend of the class that I had last semester. She's in New Jersey. Her entire business is doing accounting for
Right.
small businesses all over the country. So talk about that because we have a lot of kids say, "Well, I want to be an entrepreneur." And not only is this a great entrepreneurial field to get into, it's something that you may need as an entrepreneur to kind of manage your book. So talk about how you've used accounting to have a nice little side hustle.
So, first of all, I always say that multiple streams of income is the way to go. Don't just
Yep.
have one job. If you're good at something, you can go into business doing that. So, that's kind of what led me to working with Sanathia. I know you've talked with her before. Um, Doing bookkeeping and taxes, not just on the individual level, but we do business taxes as well. And that's really where the real money is doing those corporate taxes. So that's what I learned that at Jackson State because we had income tax accounting classes. But I say it's a lucrative business. There are several tax preparers out there, but there is room for everyone to make money. There's room for everyone to provide financial literacy. And that's one of my main goals. I like to educate my clients on what they're doing and tracking their spending, especially the small business owners, like tracking their spending, reducing their expenses, reducing their tax bill. Um,
Yeah,
what about
and a great example of that is we have a couple of alums that have opened their own businesses here in the Jackson area. Um,
Mhm.
and they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job of marketing. They have a great product. They're great customer service. But at the end of the day, they have to have those books in line because everybody wants the glamorous side of being an entrepreneur. But you've got to have a financial person, a financial. Well, obviously they can't really hire a full time accountant, but using
Right,
a service like yours to help them file their taxes because you can say whatever you want. The taxes are going to come for everybody.
right,
So not having that financial side in order makes it difficult to be an entrepreneur. That's where people like you come into play, where you can really be useful when it comes to getting those finances in order.
right. And tax preparation is not going anywhere. It's not regulated, meaning there's no like license for it. So you just have to study, and there are certification courses out there, continuing education courses you can take. I say go for it. If it's something that you're interested in, go for it, because you will make a positive difference in someone's life. And then when on the business aspect of it, like you said, everyone needs someone to help them manage their books. some business owners may be too busy to worry about it, or they may not understand. That's where our service comes in. So,
Yeah. Now, before I get to the students' questions, there's a couple more things I wanted to hit on.
okay.
If somebody wanted to be a CPA, because like we mentioned, there's several great accounting programs in Mississippi. It is a kind of a not a lengthy process, but once you graduate from college, you would have to take the CPA exam. So, talk a little bit about how that certification process works.
So the CPA exam um, is required all across the U.S. And overseas. There are four sections. No, there are three sections now because they just changed the CPA exam. So you have your financial and reporting. That's called FAR. Then you have auditing and attestation. That's odd. And then you have regulation. It's still regulation. I haven't looked at it since they changed it really because I got to start back studying myself. But they do have their three main subject areas, and then you can choose a subsection to go into like taxes or compliance, I think, and then business concepts. So you have to have a certain amount of hours. I believe it's still 150. Um, has to have that, and then you have to pick a study material, and I will say it's not cheap. You have study materials such as Becker, Glime is another study material, Sargent or Surgeon, I think it might be pronounced that way. And there is one more that I like. It's Darius Cooks, I want to say, or Darius. I think that's his name with I-75 CPA. So once you obtain those hours, then you start studying for the exam. Once you feel you're ready, then you schedule the exam, and they send you a notice to schedule, and then you take it. And I believe you have about 18 months to take the whole um, all three parts in your subsection. So it's a pretty lengthy process. Once you start, you're in it.
That's awesome. Now, one more thing I wanted to hit on before I get to their questions is obviously accounting technology has changed. When the older accountants were around, they were on pen and paper or pencil and paper. So, what are some good and obviously there's some new accounting software coming out all the time, but what are some technological changes you've seen, and what are some good programs that kids need to get experience in to kind of start being used to doing the accounting software?
So QuickBooks has a bookkeeping certification that would be extremely helpful to anyone trying to start a career in accounting and they haven't, quite obtained their accounting degree. And so QuickBooks is the popular software that everyone uses for their bookkeeping and their financial reporting. You can do payroll through it. You can pay your payroll taxes through it. So that's basically the main ones. That QuickBooks certification.
That's awesome. Well, I do have some questions, and I'll get to as many of these as I can.
Okay.
These are pretty much all ninth graders. I got a couple that aren't, but most of them
Okay.
are. This first one is Rihanna Kelly, and she asked, "Does your job ever get hard, and how do you deal with it?"
Well, thank you for your question, Rihanna. It can get hard at times. Like I just hired, well, not I, but we just brought on a new accountant after I got my promotion, and so before I got on the Zoom, we were going over one of our monthly processes, and so with accounting, it kind of goes in a cycle. At the beginning of the month, you have to do certain processes. Now, on the private sector, you're running payroll, you're running your financial reports, things like that. In our division, we have to run what's called the State Property Office Report, and it shows all the assets that were acquired and disposed, and that includes equipment, building, and land. So that can get kind of lengthy, especially when we sell a lot of assets, especially when we dispose of a lot of assets. And then from there, we use a system called Financial Management System. That's just for MDOT. The state has something called magic. Everyone uses magic. So we have to, at some point in the day, reconcile our system with everything that was acquired and disposed against magic. And that can get a little challenging when you have discrepancies because we don't just identify them, but we address them as well. So that's basically the hardest. thing. And so just keeping a positive attitude, taking your time. If you can't find the source of a discrepancy, get a second pair of eyes on it to help you. In our division, we work very well together. So that's how we work through it.
Love it. This is Herbert Carmichael, and he
Okay.
asked, "What are some skills that someone would need to be a good accountant?"
First of all, thank you for your question, Herbert. The love of math. And I'm not saying like higher level math because I don't enjoy that. But if you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, that's basically, the foundation of it. Loving to put together puzzles, that analytical mind, because like I mentioned previously, you have to be able to address discrepancies. Um, Attention to detail is so important, because you have to understand how to identify and address a discrepancy when you're reconciling something. Um, I guess it's interpersonal skills and intrapersonal skills, being able to work independently and with others, and technological skills, because in my job, I use Excel all the time. So that's some of the basic things you would need.
I agree. And Excel, I'm not an expert either, but that is a great program to at least be familiar with. I always say you don't have to be an expert on a program, but you don't need to
Right,
be scared to use it either. This is
right.
Caden Williams. He's one of our football players here at Velma Jackson. And he asked,
Okay.
at any time in your life did you feel you made the wrong career choice?
Um, no, I didn't, because I know I didn't want to be a doctor or anything, dealing with people on that aspect. Um, I knew once I got, started in payroll at the state hospital, I was only there for like a month before I came to MDOT. I knew I was in the right place, though, like dealing with the financial aspect of things. You just have to have a love for it.
Absolutely. Well, I got time for two more. This is Mariah LaFleur. She's one of our volleyball players here. And she
Okay.
asked, what are some of the most challenging financial projects you've worked on?
Challenging financial projects. Uh, I would say just reconciliations, because that can get difficult, especially when we don't use something like Magic every day. We use it maybe 3 or 4 times out of the month. And so when you're not as familiar with how a software works, it can get challenging. And so we have to reach out to another agency who is over Magic. And sometimes they don't get back with you immediately. And so an issue is left unaddressed for, a couple days, maybe even a week or so. So that's probably the most challenging thing we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I got one more. This is Precious Blackman. She's one of our basketball players here.
Okay.
And she asked, what is the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome in your career?
For me, it was really just getting a job, honestly, just getting my foot in the door. Because fresh out of college, you have your people who have been at these state agencies for years who didn't want to retire. It wasn't that the careers aren't available, because that's what we're talking about, but just getting in the door. But once you get your foot in the door, that's it. So before state hospital, I was at Trustmark as a bank teller. I ended as a head teller. So I was still dealing with money and with finances in that aspect. So that was probably the most challenging obstacle, was getting my foot in the door here. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, and something I didn't mention, and you mentioned the bank, and that made me think of it is for the
Mhm.
most part, not all of them, but most finance jobs are going to be, you're going to know your schedule all the time. You're going to be 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, off on the weekend. So if somebody wants to have a family and wants to be off at night and be able to raise children and things like that, finance could be a great option for people because, like we said, these careers are not going away. Which is, we're almost out of time, and that's what I wanted to end with is, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us
Thank
today.
you.
But why should these kids consider getting into the financial field? Because, like we said, no matter what technological advances we have, you're always going to need finance professionals.
Well, just piggybacking off of that, you're always going to need financial people. I would say it's a growing industry. It's ever changing, and the technology of it is growing. With AI and all that stuff, they say, oh, accounting jobs are gonna, go away because of AI. That's not true at all. You're always gonna need somebody in that position. So I say if you're interested in numbers, you're interested in the monetary aspect of things, go for it because there is a place for you. And even if you don't just start right off, in an agency or in a company, just do something related to it and just grow.
Absolutely. Well, again, Chloe Loving, Mississippi Department of Transportation, right there in Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you for having me. Have a good day.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
All right.